as the business owner, if you don't set the culture, if you don't set the standards in your company, someone else is going to set it for you. Ultimately, how long would your business survive as a business owner if you went on holiday? How long could you go on holiday for? Until...
Not long enough.
Yeah, until things started playing up. Again, you can't give someone a personality almost. They've got to fit the mould, and you've got to be able to visualise them within your company.
Welcome to the Roots to Revenue podcast, the podcast for small businesses that want to grow. This podcast is an association with Jobber. Jobber is scheduling and invoicing and quoting software that I use to run my own business for the last 10 years. It gets me paid faster, but best of all, customers love it. If you want to try it out for 14 days with no credit or debit card, there's a link down in the video description. If you use my link, it'll also get you 20% off for your first 6 months. Now, in the studio today, we have Jack, and Jack has travelled over from England to be part of the podcast. And Jack runs a very successful Lawncare company, and he's going to give us some tips on how to scale a business. So, Jack, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Thanks, Robbie. So I'm the owner, founder of Kingsbury Lawncare in the West Midlands. A bit about me. Where to start?
Do you want to tell the viewers how you first got into your business and sort of a bit about your education, your background?
Sure. Yeah. So I was mowing lawns when I was 14, 15 years old, just in my home village of Kingsbury, North Warwickshire. It's where the business name originated from, ultimately. So I was just cutting lawns after school as like a pocket money job. And it never finished in many ways from there.
And back in the early days, how did you? So you were saying sort of pocket money, school days. Were you driving, or how did you get from lawn to lawn?
So this was before I was even driving. I had like a push mower. It wasn't even a electric. It was just literally a push mower, one of those little cylinder ones.
And you pushed it from garden to garden?
Walking from lawn to lawn, yeah. And I think I might have had a customer list of about 12 then, when I was like 16. And obviously passing my driving test at 17 then sort of gave me that bit of extra freedom to push it on a bit further.
And then you went on to university and you did a sports?
Yeah. So I never intended to be sat where I am now, I suppose. I think same with anyone at the age of like your late teens, you don't know what you want to do. And I think the way the education system was set up certainly back then is if you're bright enough to go and do your A-levels and go to university, then you'll sort of push down that line.
Yeah.
Not saying that was the wrong thing for me. It still might well have been, still been the best way for me. But as I didn't know what I wanted to do anyway, I studied sport management at Loughborough University. So it's helped because there was a lot of marketing and such within that. It was like a placement degree. So the third year you should get a real job for a year, ultimately. And I almost ended up working for Nike, which I wouldn't be sat here now.
Yeah.
In like a marketing role with them.
Yeah. How did you go from there to where you are now? Did you at university then? What did you do whenever you finished university? Were you doing the grass cutting, just waiting to get a job, and then you thought, well, God, I could make this a full-time career?
Yeah. So I never finished with the mowing. Ultimately, because Loughborough was only 40 miles home for me. I could go back and just do a day or two of that, and as we want to keep our customers happy ultimately. So we carry on. But that placement year, I ended up working for myself. I was one of only 3 students that were able to go and work for themselves if they had a strong enough idea or business to push on. So that I had to actually delay going back to university for a year. The business was going so well, I had to defer my degree.
Yeah.
A lot of paperwork to do that, to push on, to employ someone far sooner than you would ever recommend.
Were you employing somebody whenever you were still at university?
Yeah, to be able to go back, I had a subcontracted guy to help me with that.
And how many customers did you have? How many customers did you have at that stage?
We got up to about 60. And that at that point was still all mowing and maintenance. Obviously, very different to what we're doing now.
You were in education full time, and then you had 16 customers, and then whenever you left uni, what happened then? Did you just say, right, I'm going to start doing?
I'd effectively started the business because I'd had 2 years out of university.
Yeah.
So there was something that was of some value then to sort of go back to. So it was made to sort of kick on. And even between that, I studied with the Institute of Groundsmanship, as it was called then, Grounds Management Association now. So I did like a level 3 with them. And I was also looking after my cricket club's cricket ground.
Yeah.
So I was learning a lot when it came to sports turf rather than just be sort of a mowing operation. And at that point, you hear from customers regarding lawn treatments and lawn care and such. And I started to look into this a little bit more. And that's when I stumbled across the UK Lawncare Association might have been 2015 now, is when the business started to take its form, I suppose, when I'd actually finished education.
Yeah. So whenever you finished education, you had 60 customers, and then you stepped full time into that. So I take it you were doing all levels of gardening. So I'm just going to say, anybody that's watching the podcast, you might not be a gardener, you might be in other trades. I think the advice that Jack's going to give you today is advice that you can take and you can apply to any small business if you want to scale. So you left university and you wanted to step into it. We've been friends for a long time, and I know you're very switched on with your marketing and your HR. And I know you've said in the past that your HR and growing a team is really important. And they are all different parts of the puzzle. Bringing on your first couple of employees, do you want to tell us about any problems that you faced, on any problems you faced with any employees and how you overcame that?
Yeah, tough one.
You have to. I'm gonna. For anyone listening to our podcast on audio, we have these buzzers, and they're just for a bit of fun. I'm going to say, with employees, you have to kiss a few frogs before you find your prince, or before you find someone good, and it can be really tricky find your ways through getting your first couple of employees, 2 or 3 employees. So
landed on your feet with me, though, didn't you, Robbie?
100%.
Ultimately, you get out what you put in. If you put out a very average offering in terms, and that's not just salary, just in terms of how your business is set up, how your business is branded, how it's portrayed out there, how that job advert is, what your recruitment process is like. If that's pretty weak and wishy-washy, you're going to get out what you put in. So in the early days, I don't think we have enough confidence in ourselves as business owners. There's a little bit of imposter syndrome maybe in there, a little bit of fake it till you make it, and we almost don't feel like maybe we're deserving of somebody really good at that stage, or we're not putting it out there.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're looking for a little bit. So early on, the team that we have now has never been better, has never been stronger ultimately. And that comes down to all those building blocks that we have upgraded over the years.
Just for the viewers, do you want to tell the viewers a little bit about the size of your team now?
Yeah, so we, as of this month now, will be a team of 6, including myself. So that's 4 full-time technicians out carrying out lawn treatments, myself and 1 lady in the office as well.
Okay. So in the early days, what problems did you have whenever you were trying to recruit staff?
I think the first thing is, again, not really knowing what you're looking for too much. You don't take it on someone for the first time is always going to be scary, not just from a financial point of view, but there's so much kind of trust, I suppose, going into it. So getting enough applicants of enough quality ultimately is always going to be in the first instance. You might feel a bit impatient when actually you just got to be a little bit more patient, I often find. Not knowing what you're looking for.
How long do you find it? So I've talked to you off camera about this, and I know the length of your recruitment process. How long do you find from placing an advert to placing someone on a job, on average? How long does that take?
That varies on the role massively, we find. So if it's up to now an office role, that tends to be much quicker turnaround. Someone carrying out that lawn technician role, we're looking for someone quite niche. We're looking for a customer service focused greenkeeper, ultimately. It's a lot more difficult. So coming back to the question, how long it actually takes us, it could be 4 to 6 weeks actually in the recruitment process.
Yeah.
And then it might be a further 4 weeks triggering someone's notice period. So it could be 3 months ultimately, start to finish. And then that's just day one. They're not fully trained. They're not ready to be out by themselves. So then you're talking maybe 6 to 9 months before you've actually got someone where you want them, I suppose, in many ways.
Yeah.
So it's really important when you are recruiting, if it be for your first employee or growing your team, that you're looking 12 months ahead at all times, because you need that time.
So talk me through how you, because I know you have a very rigorous way of bringing employees into the fold now. So how does that work? Because employees are the biggest bit of your business, or I always think that your employees are the most important thing in your business, even before customers. So
Big smile from Jason's face.
so finding the right employee is absolutely key. So do you want to talk me through because whenever I talked to you about your HR process and how you do it, it blew me away. So do you want to tell the viewers just how you go about from placing an advert to getting someone in the job?
Yeah, so it first of all almost starts with the branding element firstly. Again, how is your company being portrayed? Are you on all the social media channels? Do you have maybe a careers page on your website maybe? Are you that sort of open and welcoming sort of brand? On Indeed, you can have, there's work you can do on your own Indeed page. There's lots of information that can be filled out. It's another social profile that some people don't even use. You can even get testimonials from your current team members up on Indeed.
Yeah.
So again, you've almost got to think of it, you're marketing for your future team. That's even more important than marketing for future customers, ultimately, because they're going to be serving your customers. So getting some testimonials and making sure that page is bang on, maybe some videos and such of what it is to work at your company, how it looks behind the scenes, just giving that sort of feel about it before you even put together your job advert. So first of all, there's actually quite a bit of groundwork that can be done.
I think I can identify with that. Most people can see it. I'm like, because my whole life's on social media, but maybe if what I talk about, it maybe displays maybe the job's totally different from what people see online, but 100% I can see. Yeah.
Next step will probably be that job ad. Then, what is it that you are offering someone, an individual, in the company? Because again, it's not just solely a salary. That's got to be competitive, yes, but what sort of vision? Where can they go in this role? Where is your company heading? You've got to paint a broader picture. You want to look at other job adverts and look know what good looks like. Ultimately, you've got to communicate a story, a vision, an exciting place to work. People want to be fulfilled, I believe, within their roles, and they don't want a dead end job.
Most people want to go forward, and anybody that you want that's going to help you push your business forward, you want them to think that there's something more than just
things like working evenings and weekends. Like if that's the norm in your company, then you're probably tightening that talent pool further as well. Like, is there really a need to be out carrying out lawn care and such at weekends? Not really. You might be letting your customers almost push you around a little bit.
we do some film on the weekend. Generally don't do. I do a lot of my coating, or I used to do a lot of my coating before filming. I used to do a lot of my coating in at the weekends because that's whenever people are comfortable. But I've found, again, whenever you're trying to scale a business, that you need your time off as well if you want, because your health is your wealth at the end of the day. So whenever somebody applies for a job on Indeed, what happens after that then? So if Joe Blogs comes along and he applies for his job on Indeed, what's the next step?
If I could, just to go back a little bit, with Indeed, I've only just used Indeed as one outlet.
Do you find Indeed the best way to find your staff? Is there other platforms that have worked? Is there platforms for you that haven't worked?
So I'd say it was the best. However, you've got to be sure it's not the only one, and not the only one that you're trying. So I have used Total Jobs. Again, it's worth a try. It didn't work for us. It's worth a try. But think about your social channels as well, and maybe like industry job boards and things like that. There's lots of places you can actually share and get eyes on this job ad, like within Facebook groups and such, those shares, it's all free. It's not going to do you any harm at all. You've got to get visibility on it and get it out there. But we have found Indeed the best, yes. And what works for us as well is sponsoring that job ad on Indeed.
Yeah.
I think the minimum sponsorship level is something like £3 a day. Now think, how much would you pay to acquire a good customer? Now, a lot would probably say, I don't know, £50 to £100 or something to acquire a good customer. Why are you trying to attract a member of your team for free?
Yeah.
Like, think about it. It's got to be invested into both time and financially. So you've got to get visibility on the job ad. And then when they get to the job ad, it's got to be quality. Again, if you compare it to maybe your company's website, you want to get eyes on it in terms of your SEO, but you also need it to be really engaging when they get there. So it needs both sides of the coin.
So I know myself from whenever I hired Jason, whenever I put a job on the Indeed, we had 90 applicants. So how do you, what's your method to cut away the wheat from the chaff?
So on Indeed, we just ask for a CV. So we keep it really wide at the top. So again, we could get anything to that 90 to maybe 150 sort of applicants. It depends how long the job ad is open for. We previously trialled having different job specs lined up against each other, or different locations, for example. Just again, getting as many eyes on this as possible. From there, as soon as that CV comes in, we send them an application form along with our skills profile for the role, our recruitment and selection policy, and a reminder of the job ad. So they've got everything they need on this email. Please complete this application form. Now, some of that is sort of recycled information that you'd expect to find on a CV anyway, but it just means then we can judge every candidate fairly. It's amazing how many don't return that form.
Yep.
We get about 20 to 30% will return the form. That's 20 to 30% of those candidates putting their hand up and saying, I'm serious about this role. And then even within those forms, there's some that are pretty naff. So all of a sudden, assume 100 candidates, you've already taken that down to 20. So that's a great start in knowing who's serious.
So you've gone through your list. Then what do you do on your next? To cut that down even further before you get the interview. Is there anything else you put in place?
Yeah. So next step then. So say we're down to 20 then. What I will do, we probably wouldn't have maybe quite 20 at this stage out of 100. Maybe we're down to 12 to 15. I would call them. They wouldn't know that I'm calling. So it's almost like an impromptu phone interview, but they don't know that. This is just almost an informal chat one evening.
Would you even say to them beforehand or on an email, by the way, we're going to call you for an interview? Or no,
nothing. Yep. And I think this suits a small business owner as well. You don't know what time you're getting home of an evening. If you're booking an interview at 4 p.m, are you going to make it? Things are going to crop up, sort of thing. So just having that flexibility as well is nice. But what I don't want at the end of the phone is like someone prepared. I just want to get to know them as a person. Yeah. It's not I don't want an interview scenario. I just want an honest chat, quick chat with someone down the phone.
I suppose if you're giving them a precursor that you're going to call them, they'll probably think in their minds, oh, is this going to be an interview? And then it could put them off a little bit as well.
A bit of pressure almost, and a bit of nerves and such. And you want to get the real person that they're going to be like 6 months down the line, not this sort of dressed up, not real sort of thing, isn't it? That we sort of, this act is what it is. And we need to get under that.
In the past, I interviewed somebody who interviewed really well, and whenever he got into the job, it was like somebody different.
Yeah.
Somebody different. So
it's crazy.
Can be. So I really like your attitude of just picking up the phone. How you doing, John? How you time for a chat?
Yeah. And thanks very much for your application.
Yeah.
Like, have you got 20 minutes to spare for me? And 9 times out of 10 they'll say yeah, or they're just putting the kids to bed or something, sort of thing. You call me back. But
and how after, so if you went from, you had your 100 in, you cut it down to 20, do you maybe make 10 phone calls? Would you do like
10 to 15? Yeah, again, it depends on how long the job ad's sort of been on there for. And from there, again, you'd probably at least half, maybe that pool, maybe only a third will pass that ultimately. So
you bring them in for interviews at the next stage. So you can see how this takes quite a while. So your interview, is that just like quite a formal thing? Would you ask people to come in their normal clothes, or would you ask people to get dressed up? And anytime I'm interviewing staff, I would say just come with what you feel comfortable in, and I think even that in itself, you get to see what people think, because if they come too casually, well then they're not really making the effort. But in my job, you're never going to have to wear a suit, so I don't want you. I don't want you turning up in a suit, because
This is the suit.
yeah, this is the suit.
Again, it could be slightly different if it was an office or a technician role, but assuming it's a hands-on technician role, if it be lawn treatment, lawn maintenance, landscaping, whatever trade it may be, our day would be set up where they would have a face-to-face interview, 90 minutes or so, sort of length interview, and they'll also go out on the van with one of our technicians. So at the moment, that being Stan, they'll have maybe 2 or 3 hours with Stan, maybe carry out half a dozen lawn treatment calls, see how they are with the customers and such. Now, obviously, again, the interview, we sort of expect quite a polished sort of maybe defensive, reserved, I don't know, sort of that sort of polished thing. When they're out in the van with Stan, they might just loosen up a little bit almost, and we get to see the true them. And you've got to remember always, it's a two-way process. They've got to like you. It's not just you picking them. You know, candidates can drop out at any point. I'm sure everyone watching has had the experience where someone's dropped out. It's going to happen. However, if obviously you are selling the role as you go along through each step as well, and explaining what it is and why your company is a good place to work and why it's an exciting time to be joining, then hopefully you can minimise that as best you can. But yeah, we might go down to maybe say 4 candidates, or 6. We tend not to see more than 2 in a day. It's just too much effort on us as well. We've still got to carry out production as normal and see our customers and service them. But it's interesting how they react with the customers and how we actually find them face to face, say what they wear. So many little things that we can pick up on.
And would you generally, you said it, you like to aim for greenkeepers with a bit of customer focus. Is that who you find that comes through, or what is your sort of ideal candidate? Is it more? Is it more? Because for me, it's more about attitude. You can't train attitude into someone, but you can train anyone to do whatever needs to be done, essentially, but with attitude. So whenever you're trying to build your team, I know you've got different sort of guys working for you, but you want to, without...
Ultimately, they've got to align with our core values, firstly. Again, you can't give someone a personality, almost. They've got to fit the mould, and you've got to be able to visualise them within your company. Previous experience, again, is lovely, but it's secondary. So we've previously taken on guys with... So one of my chaps has worked at Wimbledon, for example, sort of thing, whereas others have no hands-on experience whatsoever. And then some down the middle, maybe with some garden maintenance and such, or sort of hands-on roles. So that's a bonus. I think it's good to have someone that's had a hands-on role before. They've got maybe more of an idea of what they're getting into, rather than someone that's on a drastic career change sort of path, but that could still be viable. I'd rather have that than maybe a greenkeeper with the wrong attitude. That's not where we're starting at. If they can't communicate and service our customers, it doesn't matter what they know or how good they think they are at a role. I can't work with that ultimately. And again, because we've got this talent pool so wide, we don't have to work with that. I'd rather wait. I'd rather not hire anyone and re-recruit. Again, it takes time.
So before you know that there's going to be a peak in, because especially in Lawncare, the peaks are in the spring, really mad peak in the spring, and then it tails off through the summer, and then the autumn it peaks again, but not as much, and then the winter sort of dies back. So with your, whenever the calls are going to come in, how soon before would you try and bring a new member of staff in? Because I think that's really, if you bring a staff member in and you're saying, oh, you have to work whenever hit the ground running, I think maybe that's what happens with Jason a little, but it's definitely not ideal bringing a staff member in at peak season. So how far off would you bring, or how would you deal with bringing someone in?
I'm just trying to get my head around when the quiet bits are meant to be. We're not feeling them. As I said, I think you've almost got to be, especially if you're looking to grow your company, you've got to be looking 12 months ahead at all times, if not further. You've got to understand, you've got to be able to predict to 10, 20%, what is going to happen? It's as simple as that. You've got to plan for these things. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on that growth. If you don't have the team in place, the structure in place that your business requires when things are going good, you can't service those customers. So in the lawn care industry, I think it's never a bad time to start. Even if it was to be a peak time, it's still, if you need someone, you need someone. But regardless of when they start, it depends on the role and how good your training and onboarding sort of processes are. They're going to need weeks, if not months, for them to actually really bed in and them get to where you want them to get to. So yeah, starting in winter, summer, whenever it may be, I suppose there's pros and cons to any season.
So we talked as well before the interview, and you'd said about different processes you've put in place, so you don't have to be there whenever you've picked your team member, that new team member, he's coming to join you. What happens then? What happens? So everyone's busy off working. How do you onboard new team members?
So someone's starting day one, sort of induction, the basics. Ultimately, I don't know what the stat is, but a very high proportion of employees leave their role in the first 100 days, 3 months, sort of thing. You've almost got to get them across that sort of threshold, and sometimes it's them. More often than not, it's you as the business owner, one way or another. You've not made the correct hiring decision, ultimately, or the role isn't what they thought it was. So something's gone wrong a little further back that maybe you could reassess for next time and learn from, ultimately. So those first 3 months are so important, not just in terms of retention, but then it's a big career, like it's a big life change, ultimately, someone changing roles. So that's got to be respected regardless of what it is. Just because they've said yes doesn't mean to say that they're still buzzing about it weeks and months down the line, especially if it's in the depths of winter or something.
You're still buzzing?
His chair's just moved a little bit. I forget the question now. Training and onboarding, I think.
Yeah, training
sort of thing. Yeah.
So how do you do it now? You'd mentioned a few processes you've put in place that you don't have to be there whenever new employees come along.
Every time we onboard now, it's as if we upped a game. I want, when someone starts, the business to almost be years further down the line than it needs to be, almost, if that just be in terms of policies, health and safety, risk assessments, whatever it may be. When they start, that almost becomes the standard, the expectation that they've sort of entered on.
Yeah.
So every time someone starts, that's stronger each time. As the business owner, if you don't set the culture, if you don't set the standards in your company, someone else is going to set it for you. And I've had that years ago with previous team members. If it's not really, if you've not got it fixed down what your expectations are and what good looks like in your business, someone's going to make those decisions. Like that, those lines are almost going to get blurred. You've got to spell everything out. Like, we have a company handbook, a team handbook that just spells out what we're about and how things work here, ultimately. Rules of the game, if you like, however you want to call it. But yeah, so policies and such, we make sure everything's as robust as it can be. That's not just protection for the business, but helps new people understand what they're getting into from day one. Again, so many that have, so we're a team of, we're a team of 6, including myself. But everyone that's come in has said, or even people that have interviewed with us, are impressed at how professional we've come across as a small business. They don't expect quite as much from us through the process. So that's almost like a green tick that they really do want to work here, actually. Even more so than from the job ad. They're heading the right way almost. We like you and they like us almost, sort of thing.
How do you keep your current team members engaged? So you have your staff in place. Your staff look after your customers. What do you do to look after your staff that you have in place?
I should have like instant answers, shouldn't I, sort of thing on that one? Yeah, but I think I like to think that we've just got a really good group of people that are all working towards common goals. Understand the opportunity in front of us, understand the business, understand our customers, understand what we're about, everyone sort of pulls their weight and has their own sort of strengths, and everyone gets that and they're excited. They're seeing the business grow year on year. They're seeing the customers that we're adding. They're seeing the new team members, the new vans, the new equipment. So it's an exciting place. So I think it's an exciting place to work. Anyway, you'd have to ask them. But
Ask him
everyone, yeah,
I'll go in
everyone,
you can ask
yeah,
him.
everyone's.
I know. Talking to you on the phone, you talked about you were introducing a bonus scheme.
Yes, yeah.
Bonus scheme. I know that you take the staff regularly out for entertainment or for dinner, even at Christmas. If the guys get the vans home with them. Do you have any sort of like the van home with you is a pretty good benefit, Jason?
Yeah, the guys have the vans. It's just easier. It just makes sense because half the time they're loaded up and ready to go to the first call. But yeah, we'll go out each Christmas, and in the summer we'll always make sure to go out. So there's been some interesting stories and fun times there.
You can tell me. You can tell me about those off podcast.
So no, we've. But again, it's fun. It's having a fun work environment.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's we're ambitious and we've got goals, but we've got to enjoy it. We spend a third of our lives at work or whatever it is, and
there was a golf course I worked in, and they used to tell you that you get paid from the neck down only, you know. And I think that's the wrong attitude if you want to get your staff to push forward for you.
Yeah, but yeah, they can see the sort of direction that we're heading in, I hope. And yeah, it's an exciting time for us. And yeah, so pay a lot, pay above sort of the industry standard.
Yep.
But it's looking after people, and if someone needs time off at short notice, as much as it can be a pain now and then to move things around and things like that, where they maybe wouldn't get that kind of love in a larger organisation. Everyone likes that small team sort of feel, and that we're not carrying anyone. And that comes back to your recruitment process.
Yeah.
That you don't actually have one member out of your 3, 4, 5 that maybe you now regret
you're all
having.
pulling along,
We're all sort of putting the graft in and we're all backing up each other. So just that feeling, that sort of team spirit is massive.
If you're enjoying this podcast, text or email it to someone that you think would find it helpful. Alternatively, don't forget to smash the like button for us. This podcast not only goes out on YouTube, it also goes out Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So you can check us out on all those different channels if you're listening audio or video. You've talked about how you recruit staff and how that all goes well, but I appreciate sometimes that you maybe bring staff on and it doesn't go well. So do you want to tell us about some times that, or some challenges you've had bringing staff on that hasn't worked?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of areas in business where you can almost, it's almost a science and it's a maths equation almost to make it work. Whereas when recruiting and when working with people, it doesn't always work. And all the more reason for recruiting ahead of time when you actually need someone, just in case it doesn't work out. We've had a couple of team members that have only lasted a week, for example. Just other job offers, say people that maybe felt that it wasn't the role for them after spending a little bit more time out and about. So these things happen ultimately. It's just part of the game of business in many ways. So you just got to almost take the emotion out of it a little bit and understand that you've just got to be prepared to go again. If you really back your business and back the process that you have set up, more times than not, it's going to work because you've done all the groundwork. So
if you've shortlisted down to 4 or 5 people, would your first protocol to go back to those 4 or 5 people? Have you found that to work for you, or would you go, all right, we'll just do the whole we'll just go through the whole dance again?
Tough question, because as soon as you have turned somebody down, is that going to knock their confidence a bit? Are they still going to want the role as much as they did the month before? Very difficult. If you were torn between 2 exceptional candidates and you really couldn't take them both on, which is another option, then maybe yes. However, if you were only 90% there anyway, you might be just as well reopening it. And you could even fire them an email and say, we've got to reopen it. Do you wish to be considered again? Ultimately, you could almost try the best of both worlds. And what will be. If they really want it still, they're going to express that interest, aren't they?
Have you had somebody put in for it the second time?
Yeah, we have. Come to think of it, yeah. So
And are they working for you at the minute?
not quite. They almost, they were very, We've had a couple of very impressive candidates that have almost pulled through better the second time. But yeah, these sort of things happen.
Do you make them do the whole process again? No, just
where they got to, I suppose, in many ways. But even though it's interesting, because to some it may feel like quite a drawn out, quite a long process. We've even had a couple of candidates drop out and say, actually, this not for me, sort of thing. But if you were buying a new van, what would it cost you, and how much homework would you put into it? If you're recruiting someone, what would it cost you, and how much homework are you going to put into it? We've not even mentioned reference calls, to be honest. That's one we've actually jumped past.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because if you're looking for, a plumber, whatever trade it may be, we love those sort of recommendations, don't we?
We're going to Google and we're
going to
references.
References are massive. And going back, I mentioned those employee testimonials when they're looking at roles. They're effectively getting references on you before they've even applied. They're going to do the homework. You're going to do your homework on each other, if it be a new customer or a potential team member. So we need to be doing the homework on them. And even if you're almost absolutely certain on that individual, just get to know them a little bit more. Just try and learn out how they tick that little bit with reference calls. They're absolutely massive.
Would you do the reference call after they've been out in the van, or would you do it before they go out in the van? Would you?
Yeah,
because not everyone likes phoning the referees until you're actually about to offer that job.
It's on coming back to the application form. It's on the form. Would you be happy with us contacting references? And if they say no, then I might mention that over the phone and almost have that conversation. If they say yes, then great. But I would never contact a current employer. If they've left a couple of references, you could call the one further back first, ultimately. But there's so much information out there. And what gives you so much confidence as an employer is if the answers they've given in interview then reflect perfectly with what you're getting over the phone. You're like, actually, I'm feeling good about this person now. I'm feeling really good. Almost.
And would you ever do any other homework, like type in their name and address into Google and do the creepy the Facebook thing just to check out?
I've searched on Facebook, but I think it's important to remain consistent.
Yeah.
If you're going to search one on Facebook, you really should search them all on Facebook. So I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
This, again, coming back to the application form, that's consistent and fair with absolutely everyone. They're getting exactly the same questions, marked on exactly the same criteria, ultimately. Again, you want to be absolutely crystal clear in your decision making, because if they have a wobbly week 2, week 3, you're going to be like, actually, no, we were really robust and we made the right decision. They're going to come through and back them and back them and back them.
How many employees have you taken on for them to leave within 2 months, within a couple of months?
So 3 ever, I think, for them to go within a couple of months,
Frustrating.
Yeah, it's 3 in 10 since about 2018. That would be something like so. That's a decent length of time to sort of judge, I think, fairly. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it does feel like a step back in the moment. However, one, it's on yourself as the business owner. You created this. You are responsible. You can't just have all the upsides when it's going well and think, yeah, great, this is my company, and then not have to actually reflect sensibly. So trying to take that emotion out of it when it goes wrong. It is frustrating. It feels like a step back, but you just got to dust yourself down, work out the best way forward, get recruiting again. You've got to relish it. Ultimately, to be in business, you've got to relish it.
I think as well, whenever a lot of people are trying to grow a team, they get the certain, because I talk to people that they get the certain size and then they go, oh, this is too much hassle, and then they go back down again. Maybe if you don't have a good recruitment process in place, you're maybe taking on the wrong team members, and then you have a couple of bad experiences, and then you're like, oh, I can't do this. Yeah. And then you go back.
I think some are scarred for life almost at that point, aren't they, sort of thing, due to bad experiences. But again, that bit of robustness in business, we've all come across a bad customer. It happens. It's only rare. Yeah. But but maybe it was our communication in the first place that made them a bad customer, sort of thing. As a business owner, the responsibility ultimately lies on our shoulders. We can't control everything, but yeah, there's certainly an element of that, and a lot of it comes down to the training and onboarding again, to make them what you want to get out of them. If you think they're a good fit for the role, then your company needs to support them. How are you going to invest in them?
What training would you put in place for people whenever they come to join the team?
So we've got the first 6 to 12 weeks we'll really lay out day by day who they're going to be with, what they're going to be doing, what they're going to be focusing on. So it's almost like a series of tick lists of their understanding, not just sort of health and safety requirements, but how we are as a business, what our values are, how we operate, our systems, turf care in terms of their knowledge and where they're at.
There's not, for anyone watching this outside Lawncare, there's not a lot of training program specifically for lawn care. Such a lot of it's mostly on the job.
Yeah, we still need to do the spraying ticket.
Yeah,
and we've used external trainers before, such as Richard that you've already had on the podcast, for example, for some high level training. But yeah, there is quite a bit out there still, but you've got to go and find it. There's not just like a made course almost, as of yet. Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in for it. For anyone watching, we did another podcast with Richard Chapman, and Richard does training. He's very good. He was on the podcast. He spoke very well, and he gave a lot of good tips on how to start a business. So that's just a make sure to watch that make sure to watch or listen to that podcast after this one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know where I was at, but yeah, the training issues, that training onboarding, making sure they feel comfortable in the new role, making sure they are being invested in. Because again, you could go into a role, then realise it's a bit of a dead end job. What you say on that job ad and how you put across your company, you've actually got to follow through on and invest in people and support them. Because when someone has done 2 or 3 years with your company, they're an even greater asset to the business. Doing what we do as a lawn care service, I think people are our greatest asset.
Yeah.
It's a bit different when it's like e-commerce or some kind of widget. Ultimately, we're providing a service, and that comes from people. So as much as chat PT, as great as it is, we need great people to actually run those systems, don't we?
I'm going to sort of jump over while we're talking about people, because I know that a lot of your staff, they don't just, so if you're paid to do a technician, they also do treatments out and about. So you've told me that that's a really good way. So you have an online system on your website that people can measure their own gardens, and then your technicians go out and they measure up, do the quote, and then do the first treatment on that visit, and that must in itself really help you speed onboarding of customers. Bringing those, so you're not going out quoting a customer, because the way I do it, I go out, quote a customer, and usually then I come back and do a lawn treatment. And I'm obviously using up a lot of time there that I don't need to. There's a lot of to and from, and there's lots of unbillable hours there.
We are oversubscribed as a business. Come the spring last year.
How many customers do you have just for the?
So we're just shy of 1,200 as it stands now. But what I mean by oversubscribed is that as soon as the spring hits last year, people were waiting 4 weeks to see one of us. So at least they know when they have a date from us. And what surprises me is people are happy to wait. Well, not a surprise, but a little bit of one maybe, that actually they really have invested in us, and they really want us as a lawn care service. So that's a confidence boost in itself. But at least they know when we're going to get to them. They're going to be getting the first lawn treatment down. We've already got a plan of action. We've already got an idea of the size of the garden. They've already got an idea of the cost involved and what they need. So we've helped them as much as we can over the phone and over email, rather than it needing the technician to do all the work when we get there. It takes a bit of weight off them as well. When they're actually in person, we've already got a good idea of what the customer's pain points are, what it is that they're looking for, and what it is that they can expect from us.
And what software do you use to manage your business?
So we use many different softwares. a lot of software. There's a software program called Call Data Manager, which is like our main CRM. MailChimp is one. There's loads. We've got like a van tracking system. There's heaps. So I could have bought a list of different like little things that we use to tools that help us in the business.
Just back to growing your team. At what stage? Because a lot of businesses, obviously, you constantly need people out working to bring in the money. At what stage did you have somebody in the office, or did you use in the early days? Did you use a call answering service to get the calls to make sure that phone was getting answered, or when? So
it was actually my mum who took a voluntary redundancy from like a teaching assistant role, and would do 10 to 15 hours a week from home, just answering the phone, just doing some bits and pieces. So at least that was almost the first step of office delegation. But I've learned that much now about delegation and processes that what I did to delegate was to basically chuck a phone at her and say, all yours, ultimately. Sort of hid behind COVID and said, oh, no, we can't. No, you do that, sort of thing. Whereas now we've got like how-to videos sort of lined up in terms of how we'd set up a customer, how we'd answer the phone, how we'd schedule social media posts, how we'd upload them, email lists, how we do the scheduling of the calls. All of that now is actually systemized, so someone could actually pick that up quickly, or I could refresh my own memory on certain tasks within the business. I've already gone off topic, but yeah, that was 15, 20 hours a week. But even that, then I was still picking up things early in the morning of an evening, sort of the more business development sort of tasks, maybe rather than just admin.
I think as well to grow, you need to delegate. So
yeah. And I think if you could go back and do it again, we'd delegate quicker.
Yeah,
we would let everything go faster. There's no doubt about that.
That was going to be one of my questions. What would you change if in your earlier days? What do you think would have helped you grow even faster than you're growing?
I'd be doing everything that we're doing now, but I'd have done it 5 years ago. Yeah, you learn. I think what I would have done, I'd have been investing in myself sooner. So I got to 2020, and it wasn't the best start to the year with COVID and such anyway. But I think maybe we just had more time on our hands, and I thought actually, we're doing okay, but I need to actually upskill myself. HR, marketing, finance. There's so many other facets of business. It's great being that technician, and we're all brilliant technicians. We love what we do, and we love our customers. We love the service we provide. But you've got to get off that.
Yeah.
Like, if it's easy because you know it inside out, so you want to stick with it. It's comfortable. But you've got to actually work on other areas to grow the business. You've got to get off. You work on the business, as they say, rather than in the business. Yeah. And you've just got to dedicate more time to that, ultimately.
I feel like at myself at the minute.
Yeah.
I can totally identify with that. The videos are all time consuming, and trying to run a business alongside, so need to start delegating, and somebody's gonna there's different bits I'm gonna have to let go. I like the idea of my tax out, carrying out the quotes and doing the job at the same time. I think that's definitely
ultimately. Yeah. How long would your business survive as a business owner if you went on holiday? How long could you go on holiday for? Until
not long enough.
Yeah. Until things started playing up. I'm certain I could do a month. I could do a month. I think might be able to do 2 or 3. I'm not going to try that, but I wouldn't want to. I'd get bored. But I think that's a good test, because some people that might only be a day. Some people that might be a week. So it's actually thinking about what would go wrong first, documenting what that is, and making sure then that has like a plan to sort of pick it up almost.
I think even just going from one man to two, What happens? Because if you're watching this and you're a one-man band, what happens if you're sick? If you can't get out to your customers, what happens to your business? It's gone. It's gone, and it's quite scary. So, like, even having an employee to fall back on, then it's amazing. You know, if something happens.
Yeah.
But as you say, that's giving me food for thought. You know, what happens if how long can you take off from your business? I can't take any time off from a business, really.
Yeah.
I can take a week off, but a week and then
it's only been a massive project actually to me since May of last year, to be honest, actually really creating a manual as such and really thinking about how do we delegate everything. And it's not just delegating tasks, it's onboarding. Again, you can onboard somebody faster, more effectively. Someone can start and learn it better. They can learn it quicker. And imagine if you've got that new starter able to carry out solo work a couple of weeks sooner. How much is that worth to you in a financial value as well? And then you just, for your next new starter, you just repeat. It's not like you've just done it the once and that's it. You've one job, you've got it forever. Then those sort of things, they can be tweaked and videos changed and checklists changed. But that's been a big project across this year for us. And it's a nice place to be in.
Good. Listen. Thank you very much for coming across.
No problem at all.
And don't forget to smash the like button. And check out the Jobber link.